This video is going to teach you everything you need to know as a beginning player in Rise of Kingdoms. And I personally have played this game for almost 5 years to over 150 million power and over 16.6 billion kill points battling other players. So you can take my advice seriously because I've maxed nearly every commander in the game. I've got the best equipment that there is to obtain and some of the very best armaments, so I have actually used the overwhelming majority of what's available in the game. I'm also the author of the most viewed new player guide for Rise of Kingdoms, and my Ultimate Guides series has literally millions of views. So hopefully I've convinced you that I can teach you a thing or two about how to get an amazing start in Rise of Kingdoms. And if you're ready to level up your gameplay dramatically, you've come to the right place. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisco Gaming, and for those of you that are new to the channel, I have made over 2,000 videos dedicated to making you a better player in Rise of Kingdoms. And my goal in this video is to teach you everything you need to know as a new player in the game. That includes a review of how exactly to get a great start, what commanders you should focus on, what to focus on in your city, where do you gather resources and how do you get the most resources, where do you best spend those resources, and even where do you spend your gems. I'm going to cover everything from farming to fighting, and honestly, this guide is going to be extremely comprehensive. So if you want to look at just any one thing in particular, then use the timestamps in the description to navigate to whichever part of the video you need right now to get your questions answered. And of course, in the description of this video, there is going to be a ton of links to more information that you might be interested in. And literally, those guides have been viewed millions of times. So I hope that you will take advantage of those resources, which are designed to help make you a better player in the game. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, do me the honor of smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video, and smash a like on the video. That tremendously supports my channel, and I thank you in advance for your support. So why is it that I've got the most watched beginner's guide and I'm making a new one? Well, a lot has changed since the last time I made that guide. First of all, you gain access to endgame commanders sooner, which changes the sequence of commanders I'm going to recommend to you in this video. In addition, epic commanders become irrelevant faster than ever. We're going to talk about why that is, but it means we need to get really specific on which few epic commanders you need to focus on. In addition, there's a special building that was released into the game since the last time I did this guide called the Museum, and this gives even more buffs to early game commanders. And if all of this seems a little bit overwhelming, don't worry, I will explain every last bit of this in detail. In addition, since the last time I made this guide, they released an armament system, which is basically just a ton of stats that you can get kind of like equipment onto your commanders. And lastly, but not least, the other thing that's changed since the first time I made this guide is that commanders are now so powerful. We used to, back in the day, talk about focusing on one troop type, and now that's not really a thing. Everyone should focus on commanders for each troop type, with the exception of Siege, in order to take advantage of the incredible power level on new commanders that come into the game. But let's jump right into the first thing you might want to know about, which is, what is the starting civilization choice? What should I have chosen? Or if you haven't already started, what should you choose? And the answer now is China. And this answer has changed based on all the things that I was just describing. The reason you want to go with China is that Sun Tzu is the most practical, most well-rounded, one of the strongest epics you can get your hands on. And the main thing that your starting civilization dictates is which commander you're going to get some extra sculptures of by virtue of doing quests. Now remember, sculptures means more skills means more fighting capability, so you want Sun Tzu as a very powerful epic. China is the civilization that will give you more of his sculptures, but in addition, they've got a couple really nice boosts here as well. You're going to get troop defense for all troop types, which is good. You're going to get action point recovery of 5%. That's a green bar. I'm going to talk about it. You use that to get experience and speed ups and resources, and you get building speed. And at the start of the game, you are going to be speeding up your buildings. We will also talk about that way in depth. Don't get confused by all the other civilizations that are here. They have very specific roles, and I've covered that in a different video. Link for that will be in the description if you wanted to see the detailed role of every civilization and when they are best used. And when you hit City Hall level 10, you're going to get a free civilization swap item that will let you change to a different civilization. Now, I will make the argument that you still shouldn't switch at that point because the building speed is still really good. So what you need to know at the start of the game is that you're going to pick China, and later you will switch to something else, but it will be much later, probably once you're City Hall 25 at least. Then and only then do you start to consider switching to another civilization. Now, since we're talking about commanders and we're looking at Sun Tzu, let's talk about early game commanders and some very basic commander mechanics, which are so critical to understand in order to do well in this game. There are a bunch of ways that you can power up a commander in Rise of Kingdoms. This includes increasing their level, which gives them more talent points. This includes increasing the skills on the commander, which gives them more abilities. This includes increasing the star level on the commander, which makes it so they can achieve higher levels and unlock skills and gives you extra talent points. There are a lot of things you can do to improve the way that a commander performs. In fact, even the way that you pair up commanders will dramatically change your performance in the open field. So the first thing I want to cover is the very basic mechanic of adding stars onto a commander. Let's start there. Every time you get 10 levels of experience onto a commander, you can increase their star level. I can show you this, okay, right over here. This is the star level of the commander. And once you get to level 10, you can unlock the second star. Once you get to level 20, you can unlock the third star. Level 30, you can unlock the fourth star. 40, you can unlock the fifth star. And 50, you can unlock the sixth star. Now, these stars do important things for you. The second star is, again, unlocking a skill. The third star also lets you bring a secondary commander onto the battlefield. So now you'll have two commanders paired together. And the synergy between those commanders is very important. We'll talk more about two commanders in just a second. Now, your stars and sculptures to level up commanders and skill them up is going to be extremely limited. So something that you're going to want to do is focus your investments in a small number of commanders. We're going to talk about which ones those are and why you'll make those choices. But there's a reason why I have El Cid only at 4 stars and I haven't taken him further. And that's because these resources are limited, even for endgame players that have been playing for a very long time. So you don't want to level up and star up every single commander. You want to focus down your investments. Now, when you bring commanders together in the open field and you bring two commanders as a pair, one of them will be the primary commander and one of them will be the secondary commander. Now, when you do that, there's some very important things that come into play. For the primary commander, you get the benefit of everything they've got, okay? You get the benefit of their equipment, which becomes available to you, I believe, at City Hall level 16. You get the advantage of their armaments, which becomes available to you around KVK Season 2. We'll talk about what that is in just a bit. You get the advantage of their talents. You get the advantage of their skills. You get everything that commander has to offer. When you select a commander to be the secondary commander in a march that you bring out into the field, that secondary commander only gives you the benefit of the skills they have active. So the primary goal of that secondary commander is, again, in order to have skills that are really synergistic with the primary commander. And that is how bringing a commander pair works. Now, every commander, on the topic of skills, has one active skill, several passive skills, and then also one awakening or expertise skill. The way that these work is actually very critical. The first skill, the active skill, is typically the most important one on a commander. It defines the core thing that that commander does when they go and fight. And this skill requires rage. In order to show you how this works, I'll bring a march home from gathering. This is generally a bad thing to do, to leave a resource node partially gathered, but we'll talk about that more in the gathering portion. And I'll show you the rage bar accumulating. Each active skill on a commander has a rage requirement. And that rage requirement, once fulfilled, will allow your commander to use their active skill on the next turn. Now, when you bring two commanders together, you get both of their active skills to fire off, although they are staggered. So what will happen is you'll see the active skill of the primary commander fire off. There'll be a second of downtime, and then the active skill of the secondary commander will fire off. So for example, I'll bring a commander out. Let's bring a commander that does area of effect damage. I'm going to show you something cool. We're going to use Zhuge Liang. I'm going to bring just a very small number of troops here, okay? This is the primary commander. You can see their equipment and their armaments have applied. The skills from both commanders have applied. Here we'll select a secondary commander. I'm going to bring YSG. These are two legendary commanders in the late game. I'm going to bring a small number of troops just to be able to illustrate a point to you. And now I'm going to go battle this barbarian. Okay. Now, when I battle this barbarian, which is something you've already probably done in your tutorial, you may or may not have noticed this yellow bar off to the left-hand side filling up. That is the rage bar on the commander. Now, I tried to bring a small enough amount of troops that you'll see several skill cycles. Here is the active skill from the primary commander, and there is the active skill of the secondary commander. So the primary commander fires their active skill. There's a second of downtime, and then the secondary commander fires their active skill. I also just illustrated a very cool concept to you, which you may not have noticed, which is that this cost me an amount of action points to battle one of these barbarians. It's the green stuff in the upper left. But they only charge me for hitting one barbarian, even though I just killed 3, and I got the loot from all 3 barbarians. We'll talk about that more in just a bit, and there's a number of optimizations that you can make around battling barbarians. But what I wanted to show you is that rage bar off on the left-hand side, accumulating rage, and then using the active skill, okay? So this skill on every commander is the active skill. You can click between different commanders, and most have the same rage requirement of 1,000. Now, you may be looking at my commander screen and be going like, whoa, bro, how do you have all these commanders that I don't even see in my screen at all? The reason that I have different commanders available is that I'm in the end game, and these commanders only will become available to you after KVK Season 3. Commanders in this game are released periodically every 3 months or so, and they come from the Mightiest Governor and the Wheel of Fortune, 2 major events in the game. But before I get too sidetracked on how you get these commanders, let's talk about the other skills on the commander. The second, third, and fourth skill on a commander are called passive skills. They give you benefits that are completely separate, typically, from the active skill. Sometimes a passive skill will have a description that is related to the active skill, but generally speaking, these are buffs and benefits that apply to you all the time. And once you max every single skill on a commander, then and only then can you unlock the awakening or expertise skill that's on that commander. So as an example, I can scroll on down. Here I've got a commander that has 5 skill points on the first skill, 5 on the second, 5 on the third, and 3 skill points on the fourth skill. If I were to go in and max the last 2 skills on this commander, then and only then could I unlock the awakening or expertise skill. Now, because of the way that you unlock these skills in Rise of Kingdoms, remember adding stars onto the commander makes it so you unlock the second skill, then the third skill, then the fourth skill. There is a little bit of weirdness here because skill assignment in this game is random. What does that mean? So if I take a commander like Chandragupta, and we'll even do this right now, okay? The way that this works, if I want to apply another skill point on a Chandragupta, is that skill point will be randomly applied to one of the skills that is not already maxed based off of all of the skills I've unlocked. But there is a special new function called Skill Lock that was released into the game since the first time I did my Ultimate Beginner's Guide. And this makes it so you can somewhat control where the skill ups will go. If I slide this all the way to the left, then all my skill ups will go on the active skill. Remember, you always want to max the active skill on almost every commander in the game before you unlock some of their other skills. I can take this slider and make it so that the skill ups will randomly be assigned to the first 2 skills, the first 3 skills, or even the first 4 skills. But at no point in time can I say, hey, I want every skill up to go on the 4th skill. The game doesn't work that way. You don't get to choose where your skill ups go. So as you add stars to a commander, just be mindful of the fact that you lose some amount of control where the skills will go. But you can use this skill lock function in order to gain more control over where they ultimately go. And if I wanted to add another skill to this second skill right over here, I have the sculptures to do it. So I can hit back over here, and you can see this skill is locked. The skill ups are not going to go over here. So I'm going to hit upgrade, okay? And then the skill up goes exactly where I want it to go in this particular case. Again, that skill assignment is random in situations where you have lots of skills that are available. In fact, let's jump to the next topic, which is leveling up your commanders. When you battle barbarians, you're going to gain experience onto the commanders that you brought, which is a big deal. Bringing a secondary commander to a march and getting that critical level 23-star situation where you can bring additional commanders is a big deal because now both of those commanders are getting experience. They don't get less experience per commander. They don't split it like that. They both get the full amount of experience. And the other thing you can do, of course, to level up a commander is to deploy experience tomes. Now, I have a lot of these because I've been in the end game for a long time, but I want to show you something as you level up a commander in Rise of Kingdoms. Watch this troop capacity number right over here, 198,950. When I add a level onto a commander, that troop capacity goes up. So you can bring more troops into the open field with your march when the primary commander is leveled up and begins to level up more. Also, you will be gated to the amount that you can level up a commander based on their star level. So if I apply several levels onto this commander, you'll see that once I get to level 40, I can't use more experience tomes. I need to apply more stars before they can level up more. Now, there is some amount of sort of optimal combination of stars that you can do here. For the most part, I don't overthink this anymore. I used to. I made a dedicated video a long time ago talking about what is the optimal combination of stars, and it's something like 4 of these stars over here. I think this is the bundle, and then a couple of these blessed ones. And this has to do with the combination of luck and experience to sort of optimize the outcome here. At the end of the day, this genuinely does not matter all that much. You can see I got the crit, and that was just a ton of experience. It's actually kind of wild. So once I increase the star level here, I can increase the level on this commander. And you may, again, wonder, like, why not just take it to 60? I have no reason to take it this commander to 60. It doesn't do anything for me anymore. At the start of the game, it was interesting, but now it's just not all that important. But I will say that every time you level up a commander, you get access to more talent points. And talent points in this game are absolutely critical. So if we look at one of my better commanders, in fact, I'll tell you what, let's look at a commander I told you to work on. That's Sun Tzu. We'll go find him. He's over here. We look at his talents. We got a lot of options for Sun Tzu talents. Each commander has 3 talent trees. The talent tree name determines what talent points will be available. And there is an option in the upper right to make presets for your talents, which is really powerful. Anytime that I want to play around with a talent build and figure out, like, hey, what do I want my talent points to look like? I use one of these non-active talent builds because they're free to reset and it costs you an item to swap to. So I can play around with this as much as I want, making talent builds, and then once I've decided on one that I really like, then and only then do I deploy the talent builds to the commander, because then they're sort of permanently locked in until you decide to make a swap. Now, these talent points are incredibly powerful, and the sequence of talents matters a lot. This is why I've made dedicated guides for every single commander in the game, and if you want to find any of those guides, you can go to YouTube and do a search for Chisgule, that's my name, plus the name of the commander, and I guarantee you will find guides for them, and you will find plenty of talents. If you want a talent guide, you could do Chisgule, Sun Tzu, talents, and I guarantee you my video will be right near the top for pretty much every commander in the game when you do a search like that. So as you can see, I can go in and sort of define what I want my talents to look like over here. And later I can go back and sort of deploy that to my main talent build, okay? And what talents you choose for each commander depends a lot on what you're using them for. If you're using them to fight barbarians, you would make one set of choices. If you're using them in a game mode like Sunset Canyon, you'd use another set of choices. If you are fighting in the open field, you might use another set of choices. It actually ends up being kind of expensive to swap your talents all the time. So typically what you want to do is create a set of talents for the primary use you do with that commander, and only in certain circumstances do you swap around the talents yet again. Remember that only the talents from the primary commander matter when you're fighting in the open field or really doing anything. Talents on the secondary commander don't matter when they're in that march. Talents on that commander will only matter when they are the primary commander. So what I like to do is, if I fight in the open field, let's make an imaginary combo here with Minamoto and Pelagius, okay? I might have peacekeeping talents on my Minamoto, and then I might have city defense talents on my Pelagius, who is a cavalry commander. He's right over here, and he's, in the early game, you could consider using him for defending your city, although I think you've got some better choices, right? And so I might have city defense talents on him, which I don't have currently. But if I had city defense talents on him, I'd use him as the primary for defending my city. I'd use Minamoto as the primary when I'm actually out and about and I'm fighting stuff. Of course, if we make our way back to those skill ups, you may have noticed something really critical here. For the last few skill ups on Chandragupta, it's 75 sculptures a pop, which is crazy. It's gotten very expensive. But for these commanders that don't have very many skill ups onto them, for example, let's look at Suleiman. Well, wait a minute. Skill ups for him only cost 40 sculptures. And a skill up for Bert over here, who has barely any skills on him, this only costs 15. It costs more and more sculptures to get skills onto a commander. So the more skill ups you have, the more it's going to cost you to get those final few skill ups. So the first couple skill ups on a commander is only like 190 legendary sculptures only, whereas fully expertising a commander is a full 700 sculptures to go from unlock to fully maxed out. So it's sort of an exponential boost in terms of the number of sculptures you're going to need in order to get more and more skills onto a commander. This is why it's critically important to use that skill lock function I was telling you about, to have those skills deploy sort of where you want. Now, in a worst case, these days there's actually a skill reset item that you can obtain, and this item shows up occasionally in events. They are very rare. You can use the reset item. It will set all their skills back to 1. It does not give you universal tokens back. It does not give you these universal sculptures back if you ever used any on them. All of their sculptures will still be specific to the commander. In fact, you won't even technically have any of the sculptures. You'll just have skill ups that you can deploy, so you can redeploy those skills back onto the commander and hope that you get them in a different order. And you may wonder, well, why is it that you would want to do that? Well, there are certain commanders that have skills that you may not be interested in. So, for example, Ragnar Lodbrok. He's got a skill designed for hitting cities specifically. If you're using Ragnar, but you never hit cities, which most people never should, and you had a bunch of skill ups randomly land over here, you might consider using a reset item on him to reallocate them more favorably. Or if you made some mistakes with your commanders because you were newer to the game and you didn't know what you were doing, you could use a skill reset item to potentially fix the issue. So now that we've covered all of these commander basics, let's talk about which commanders you should actually work on. And I'll give you 3 epic projects at the start of the game. The first epic project is obviously going to be your Sun Tzu. I'm going to filter by epic commanders here to make this a little bit easier. Sun Tzu is amazing. He does area of effect damage. You can use him for your city garrison, which is a big deal, and he's really good in the open field. Sun Tzu is the number 1 epic I think you should be working on. The number 2 epic is going to be Joan of Arc, and not only is she great for gathering, but her active skill does this crazy powerful buff, generating rage and giving you stats to your march and 4 other nearby marches. And although the description doesn't say it's only your march and 4 other nearby marches, this is the reason why you're subscribed to the channel. These are the sort of tips you're interested in. From here, I'm going to give you 3 choices, and you can sort of pick which peacekeeper you want to do. You could either work on Boudica, who is going to give you bonus experience, 20% when you battle barbarians, just from unlocking this second skill, which is a big deal. She's also very versatile, doesn't care about what troop type you pair with her. Alternatively, you could look at Belisarius, who's an awesome cavalry commander, and he has some really powerful skills. I mean, 35% damage to barbs is nice, but 30% defense is actually really good. Even though his active skill seems very weak, he's actually a very strong role player when you go, especially and you're jumping around resource nodes to fight other players. And from here, I'll give you one other cavalry commander, that is Baibars. Baibars has area of effect damage that is really, really good. And the thing that many people underestimate about Baibars is that when he does area of effect damage, that damage is not reduced based on how many targets you hit. And you may be like, whoa, what do you mean, Chiskel? Reduced based on how many targets you hit? Well, some commanders, when they hit multiple targets, do less damage by virtue of having hit multiple targets. So for example, if I start to show you some legendary commanders, okay? And let's show you a legendary commander that is available in gold keys. So it's a commander that you could gain access to. We're going to get a look at Thutmose. We look at his active skill. And this deals 15% less damage for each additional target you hit. Hello? So this is 1,000 damage factor hitting 3 targets, but it deals less damage for each target you hit, which is not great. Whereas Baibars over here, he's only an epic commander, but he's doing 1,000 damage factor, and his damage is not being reduced based on each target you hit. Oh my god, there's so many commanders. Finding the commander you want is crazy. Okay? So Baibars is actually a sneakily powerful commander. The same is true of the legendary commander Ethelfled, which we'll talk about in a bit. There is one other epic that you are going to work on. Everybody works on them, and that is going to be Lohar. Lohar is available during an event called Lohar's Trial, and the magic of Lohar is that he gives you a 70% experience boost for both him and the other commander you pair with him. So you basically use Lohar to power level another commander that you're going to pair with him, and that works extremely well. The sort of trick to Lohar's Trial event is that while the event is active, it's going to drop a bunch of what's called a bone necklace, and the bone necklaces give you these Lohar's bucklers and Lohar's longbows. You use these to summon Lohar, and then you rally down these bosses that you summon in order to get Lohar sculptures. But this costs you action points to do. So the big secret to Lohar's Trial is that you shouldn't, as an alliance, be rallying any of these. You should wait until after the event has ended, then summon your Lohars, because you can summon them anytime you want. The event window only determines when the items drop that enable you to get the summon item. So you want to spend all your action points getting these summon items during Lohar's Trial, and as soon as it ends, you can summon all the Lohars, rally them all down, when you don't have anything else that you can be doing with your action points that gives you that disproportionate extra reward. My recommendation to you is not to use any universal epic tokens on your Lohar. And the reason you don't want to use any epic sculptures on your Lohar is that you can get not exactly unlimited, but you can get as many of them as you want from participating in Lohar's Trial, and Lohar's Trial will come back. So if you don't max them the first time the event comes around, it's honestly not that big a deal. The only thing you really care about is maxing the first skill for the damage, and then also the third skill for the 70% experience. That's really the key. Now, when it comes to talents for battling barbarians, let me give you a quick game plan. And every time you battle barbarians, you really want to use one of these peacekeeping commanders as the primary commander. The reason is that gives you access to the peacekeeping talent tree. And the one talent you're really interested in is right over here. It's called Insight. Insight is going to make it so that it reduces the action point cost to battle a barbarian by 10. That reduced action point cost is unbelievable. It makes it so that instead of spending 50 action points to battle a barbarian, now you're only spending 40. But guess what? Every time you battle a barbarian, the cost goes down by 2. So you can get it to as low as 30 action points per barbarian. That is a big deal. Now, if you're wondering, like, hey, what should the order be for the sort of skill ups or the talent points you apply here? First thing you got to do is get Insight. Hands down, absolutely critical to go and get Insight. The second thing I would probably get just for battling barbarians is Trophy Hunter. This gives you more resources for doing the same thing you were doing anyways, and trust me, you are going to need this economy very, very much, very much. From here, you probably want to go and take Rejuvenate, which is a very powerful talent, and I would recommend only 2 points into Rejuvenate. This is a very complex topic. It depends on whether or not you have the support tree or the skill tree, but you'll just have to take my word for now, and you could watch a detailed Rage video later if you wanted, that due to the way that Rage works in this game and the fact that there was a limit per turn, you just go to 100 here, 2 points into this, and you're fine. From there, you probably want to get the March Speed over here in Thoroughbreds. March Speed is really important for just being able to do all the stuff you want to do on the map. And then lastly, you go all the way to Curing Chant. So you'll start to get the requisite talent points along the way. You'll get Curing Chant, and you max this bad boy out. Every time you battle a barb, you're going to get another heal, which is really great. Lohar in particular is not good for rallying barbarian forts, but on a commander like Minamoto, getting Mighty Force for another 9% extra damage when you rally barb forts is actually really good. And I think this is a pretty healthy guide for the first places you would put your talents onto a peacekeeping commander. Now that covers the game plan for all the epic commanders in the game. But yo, Chiskel, what about all my legendary commanders? And I've got good news, bad news. The good news is that you actually don't need to put any of them onto any legendary commander until you get to the end game. You get to the end game now in KVK Season 3. I'll explain what a Kingdom versus Kingdom event is in just a bit. But you should hoard up every single one of these precious universal legendary commander sculptures until you get to the end game. And I know that answer sucks, but the reality is that the early game commanders are fractionally as good as the end game commanders. And to illustrate this point to you, you may think, bro, I want to work on my Charles Martel. All right, well, Charles Martel does a shield factor of 1,200 and gives you 30% bonus damage for 4 seconds. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Okay, but in the end game, you have commanders that are so astronomically better. Here's Zhuge Liang, who does 2,000 damage factor to 5 enemies in a circle around your march and reduces the damage they deal by 15% for 3 seconds. I want you to understand the end game legendary commanders are so astronomically out of this league powerful compared to your early game commanders. Save every legendary commander sculpture you have for the end game unless you are a big spender in the game. And I wish that the early game commanders were better to invest in, but they simply are not. Only a whale who is the rally leader or garrison captain for their alliance should be making those sorts of investments into early game legendary commanders. In fact, the early game legendary commanders that you're going to be getting from your, gold keys and early game activities are so weak that they released a new building called the Museum. This becomes available to you much later on, but through the Museum, you can get extra buffs that start to make early game commanders more relevant in the late game. That's how underpowered the early game commanders are. So if you wanted to know which early game legendaries do hold up in the end game, they aren't the best of the best, but they hold up. That's going to include YSG, Ethelfled, Minamoto, and also Mehmed as sort of your top choices for early game commanders that will hold up in the late game. I'm not saying that you should go use your universals on Mehmed. I'm saying those are the ones that actually will still hold up once you get to the end game. And there is a big difference. You should hoard up your legendary commander sculptures until you get to the end game. And I hate to say it, but you're going to have to be patient for those 290 days until you get the end game commanders. And you will be so happy that you saved up those sculptures when you get to the end game. And if you were really insistent that bro, Chiskel, I gotta do something here, and I'm not really spending all that much, if you really wanted, you could go for YSG. That is the one commander I will give you sort of permission to go work on, even though you still shouldn't, because YSG is still pretty solid in the end game. Okay? Isong is a great commander, circle area of effect damage, but again, to illustrate the difference between an early game commander and a late game commander, he does 1,700 damage factor, and Zhuge Liang does 2,000, and has a crazy debuff on top. I'm just saying, man, the power level of the end game is absolutely cracked. Now, if you want Isong, he is available from the Wheel of Fortune. We will talk more about where to spend your gems in just a bit. And again, if you're getting value from this video so far, do me a huge favor, consider throwing a like on here and subscribing to the channel. One last hack that I want to give you related to commanders, if you wanted to level up your commanders quickly, is that as you make your way into the sort of center of the map for your kingdom, you're going to notice that when you zoom out, there are these holy sites that are available. And these holy sites have guardians, the shrine guardians. These give you a huge amount of experience and they cost you 0 action points to defeat. So when I was, really powering up a lot in Rise of Kingdoms and we'd made our way into the center zone, I had a route that I would run with a group of people and we scheduled times. We would start at the Lost Temple in the center. We'd make our way to each one of these holy sites around the edges over here. And we pulled down I want to say somewhere in the realm of 2.4 million experience in total. If you bring 5 marches, battling all the holy site guardians every single time we did it. And these respawn twice a day, once at 0 UTC, just about, and another time at 12 UTC. I think it's technically 12:07, 12:08. I think it's 0:07, 7 minutes after the hour, but whatever, you get the idea. Those guardians are worth so much experience. They also drop runes, and runes are important for your progression. In case you haven't ever gathered a rune before, I can show you, here's a rune that dropped. It's gathering speed. This is a buff that's temporary, but, getting some extra gathering speed is nice. Getting some march speed is nice. AP recovery is great, but the better ones are building speed and research speed. Those end up saving you a ton of speed ups. Training speed is another huge buff you can get before you train a lot of troops. Leveraging these buffs is actually a really big deal, but the main reason you battle these guardians at the start of the game is to go in and get all that juicy experience from conquering them. I do want to cover the topic of equipment very briefly. I have spent many thousands of dollars powering up some really, really crazy equipment, but there is some very high value equipment you can make early on. And you can see I'm even using this blue equipment item, even though I have iconic crit, legendary talent items over here, which are really insane. I'm still using this blue shield. And the thing that I want to teach you about equipment to help you get some crazy value is that, generally speaking, without getting into all the craziness of it, health is better than defense, which is better than attack. It's a much more nuanced conversation than that simple answer, but that is the simple guidance that will help you get immense value when you're hey, what equipment do I make? What should I use? Generally, health is better than most other stats, and that's because there's diminishing returns on how much of a stat you get. And you'll notice in your personal research, and especially in your alliance research, you don't get as much health as you get other things. So health is always going to be typically in deficit, and that's why when you're hey, what item do I make? You can look at health and say, hey, that's probably better than something else. That's why for, infantry, I'm still using this blue shield. Even though they're, I could easily make the epic, could easily make the legendary item. And I've made detailed guides discussing the exact equipment that you should go and make. I'll have a link in the description of this video. So if you want hey, exactly what equipment should you go forge, those details will be there. But my key guidance to you for equipment at the start of the game is going to be to make one set for each troop type. Okay, one set for infantry, one set for cavalry, one set for archers. Because toward the end of things, what you're going to be able to use will be directly constrained by how many sets of equipment you have for each troop type. So in my opinion, a very balanced approach is the way to go these days because of commander power level. So you want one infantry set, one cavalry set, one archer set. Start by making mostly green items. Then you can upgrade those to blue items. Okay, then upgrade them to epic. And the last thing you should do is make any legendaries. And that is because the amount of stats you gain from going to a legendary is pretty small. If you had a ton of materials and you had some of the special item called an iconic crystal, okay, then and only then would I advise you to start to do legendaries before you would have otherwise. These iconic crystals give you extra base stats, which are very powerful. There are 2 kinds of stat boosts in this game. There are the base stats of the unit, and then there are percentage-based buffs that modify the base stats. So iconic crystals on a legendary gives you more base stats, which is really good. Then and only then do I give you permission to just spend all those materials. And look, the cost is like exponential, making a legendary compared to a green or a blue. Okay, so start with blues and greens, then make your way up to epic, and much later on go to legendary. Now from here, we can start to talk about what the heck you upgrade in your city. And the pivotal building in your city is your city hall. The appearance of your city hall can change using these city themes. So if you're looking at my city hall going like, whoa, I don't recognize that look at all, this is the default look of my city hall for Germany. And depending on what civilization you have, your city will have a different look to its buildings. Eventually, you'll gain access to these powerful city themes that give you different buffs and benefits. For example, this is giving me 5% action point recovery, which is kind of nice. Now, when it comes to the upgrade order, in this style of game, people often think, oh, I'm going to upgrade all my buildings evenly. That's a terrible plan. You want to do the least amount possible to upgrade your city hall. The city hall is the bottleneck for so many good things. That includes more troop capacity, which just makes you more powerful in the open field, and also more total troops you can have out at a time. Right now, I have 5 troops out. That's because I have exceeded city hall level 22. You also get an additional troop in the open field at City Hall 17. You get to your 3rd troop at City Hall 11. You get your 2nd troop at City Hall 5, which you've probably already done. Now, this is important, but there are 2 other buildings I want you to always be leveling up. Those 2 other buildings are going to be your Academy and also your Alliance Center. Why is that? When you level up your Academy, which is where you do research, and I have all my research maxed at this point, you get several benefits. Not only do you make more research available to you, but also you get a research speed boost every level that you put on this thing, which is a big deal. And when you unlock more and more technology, I am going to encourage you at the earliest opportunity, I mean the earliest opportunity, you max writing every time you see it, giving you more research speed. You max the things that give you more building speed. Engineering, you want to max that as fast as you can. Mathematics, you want to max that as fast as you can. Economy-based stuff is so good for your progression. This building is also, by the way, where you're going to unlock higher tiers of troops. The troops in this game tier up all the way to tier 5. The higher tiers of troops have more base stats. More base stats means you're able to hit harder, take more damage, and just overall win more fights. So you want to eventually make your way up to tier 5s, although that takes a long time, and I have dedicated guides around that. Again, the other building you want to level up right away when you get to a new City Hall level is going to be your Alliance Center. And the Alliance Center has a magical function. What the Alliance Center will do is make it so that other people can help reduce the time it takes for you to heal your troops, to do research, and to do building. Now, the reduction is percentage based. So the longer something takes, the better this buff is for you. One help goes further on a 100-day research rather than a 1-day research, because it is doing a percentage of the total time that it takes to do that research or to do that building. So every level you put on this thing is going to increase the number of times you can be helped. And before you use any speed ups to level something up, you want to wait until you've been helped the maximum number of times by your alliance. For obvious reasons, it's really helpful to be in a super active alliance because helps make it so that stuff goes faster. The faster your helps come in, the less time you spend sort of staring at your screen, wondering when you can use your dang speed ups to go and accelerate a building's progress. Now, there are many other buildings in your city that we're going to talk about over the course of this video. One building I want you to not neglect, however, is your hospital. This building is really critical. You see, every time you fight in the open field, some number of troops get wounded, and let me explain that. There are 2 types of wounds your troops can take. Slightly wounded troops will stay with the army that's still out in the field. And if you add healing abilities, you actually can bring them back. But severely wounded troops happen as the fight is going on, and they go instantly to your hospital. Now, as long as you have room in your hospital, you're cool, baby. They go to your hospital, you can heal them up at your convenience. But if your hospital is full, then every troop that exceeds your hospital capacities for wounded units, they are going to die. Permanently gone. That is bad. You want that to basically never happen. There is no situation where you're happy about that. You don't want your hospital to overflow. So increasing the level of your hospitals is actually sneakily important, but these cost a ton of resources in order to level up. So as a pro tip, if you want to gain a lot of power really quickly, there are several things in your city that cost a lot of resources, but don't take many speed ups, a low number of days of speed ups in order to level them up. That includes your hospitals, that includes your gold mines, and that includes economic research, okay? Those things take very, very little time to level up compared to other things, but a high amount of resources. Now, one other hack for leveling up things in your city is that you're going to notice that when you upgrade your troop training buildings, or when you upgrade your academy, you can't also do research at the same time. You cannot also train troops at the same time. For this reason, if you want to get 2-for-1 value for your speed ups, you wait until you've been helped the max number of times, and then you speed up the building for its upgrade. The reason is actually very easy to understand. Let's say it takes you a day to complete the building upgrade. For that entire day, you're not doing research. For that entire day, you're not training troops. So if you spend 1 day of speed ups, you not only get the building sooner, but then you can start your research sooner. You can start your troop training sooner. It's kind of like getting a free day of troop training as well. Because if you had just waited the full day for the building to complete, then you wouldn't have been training any troops. So it's like 2-for-1 value for your research and your buildings, your research and your training speeds, if you speed up your upgrades to your 4 troop training buildings and also your academy. And if you're wondering, how do I know when I've been helped the max number of times? You go to your alliance screen, you hit the help button, and it'll show you if you had something being upgraded. If you're at, for me, it's 30 out of 30, or if you're not complete yet, you might be like 8 out of 12 for the number of helps you can get. You wait till you're 30 out of 30 on those helps, and boom, you speed up that building. You're good to go. One other building I do want to talk about that's very important is your city wall. This building actually has several functions, but the one I want to talk about here is that if you smash this button on the right-hand side, you can set the garrison captains for your wall. Remember, the primary commander will leverage their equipment. Once you unlock formations, you'll leverage their formation. You get their talent points, you get their skills. The secondary commander, you only get their skills, but make sure that if you have a desired combination for defending your city, that you do choose that combination. And literally every troop that's in your city will defend your city if it's attacked. So unlike when you battle in the open field and you have a limited march capacity, here all your troops will be in the fight. So making sure you pick the right commanders here not only intimidates someone, potentially, to go and, maybe not attack you. Maybe they'll attack someone weaker. But also in the case where you are attacked, you want to have a very intentional city defense. And even if that's sort of a side project, okay, where you're leveling up a commander kind of off to the side, you don't generally use them, it's still good to have, somebody on your wall very intentionally set, because the talent points for city defense are actually really, really good. On the topic of your city getting hit, if your city is attacked and your defense fails, they take some of your resources, which is a problem. So one thing you want to do is never open your resource tokens. The reason you don't want to open your resource tokens until you need them is that you don't want people to plunder all these resources if your city gets hit. Only open resources if you actively need them. And you look like a really juicy target with lots of resources open because somebody can go and take them. Now, one thing that many people don't understand is that there's technically a plunder tax. When you attack somebody's city, you do get some of the resources, but 30% of what you would have taken is just lost as sort of plundering and efficiency. So you want to keep your resource count very, very low. Now, if you do want to protect your resources, there is sort of a way to do that, and that is the building called the storehouse. The storehouse is going to give you food, wood, stone, and gold protection capacity. And no one can take your gems, so you don't have to worry about that. But the capacity for protection here is so low that, in the early game, you might be able to stay under your storehouse for capacity, but very quickly you will exceed what that capacity is. So the real trick is to never open your resource tokens until you actually need them to do building or research. There is a way that you can sort of take resources that are open and convert them into token form. And that is from the courier station over here. You'll see that there are items where like I can spend resources for speed ups. That's very nice. I'll go and do that. I could spend resources here for production boosts in my city. I get 1 free refresh. I'm going to spend resources for speed ups over here. Resources for materials is nice. Okay, production boost is nice. You can take resources and you can convert them into token form in here, but it's a very slow process. The thing that most people will do very incorrectly in here is spend their gems. And I'm going to share with you a dozen other places that are better to spend your gems in this than in this mysterious merchant. She is a complete waste of gems. I'm not saying you can't get some value, but I'm going to say there's like so many ways to get so much more value other places. We'll talk about gem spending in just a minute. I want to get back to the topic of spending your resources because at the brand new start of a server, I want you to power up as much as you possibly can. There are going to be a ton of events that give you huge benefits for powering up, and generally the higher power you are, the more likely it is you can get to an alliance that you like really want to be in that's super active. So although some people will advise that you should hoard your speed ups for events, which you could do in the late game, the early game is a power rush. The early game, you want to leave no untapped potential on the table. Power up as fast as you can, as early as you can, and get into an alliance that's as strong as you possibly can, as quickly as you can, because that will so dramatically change your trajectory. The same is also true for your action points. You shouldn't just go and, spend your action point potions whenever you want. You should spend them when there's an event that gives you more stuff for having spent them. That could be as simple as a Lohar's Trial, or it could be, as advanced as perhaps trying to score some extra points in a Mightiest Governor, okay? You want to hoard speed ups and action point potions after you're out of the early game for special events, but in the early game, you should power up like crazy as fast as you can. So this now brings us to, okay, Chisgule, let's talk about gems. Where the heck do you spend those? And yes, I have 343,000 gems. In fact, if I open my gem tokens, I will have many more. I am a whale in Rise of Kingdoms. I spend a lot of money in this game. I've spent over $120,000 playing this game over the course of the last 5 years. So where you spend your gems and spending them efficiently really matters a lot to me because I'm spending a lot of money on this. So I want to do it right. So here is the places where I think you get the absolute most value for spending your gems. The first and foremost place is going to be an event called the Wheel of Fortune. Certain commanders will be available in the Wheel of Fortune, and you can spin that Wheel of Fortune up to 100 times and get extra rewards for having done it. Now, for most people that are really not spending, and very few people spend a big amount in this game, my recommendation to you is to spin the wheel to at least 10. You get some extra sculptures, and you get a bunch of other good stuff along the way. That would be my recommendation for the Wheel of Fortune. There's also a equipment-related event called the Hunt for History. The same is sort of true for that. You can spin to the sort of lowest tier of that event, and there's a reward for getting to 10 spins, and that reward is actually very good. But if you're fully free to play, you're going to be hoarding those gems for an event that shows up in the calendar, okay? And it's going to be called More Than Gems. The way that event works is you just get extra rewards for spending gems. You can get rewards for spending up to 25,000 gems per day. So what free-to-play players and pay-to-win players do alike is they make sure they have enough gems, they save them up for this event, and then they go in and spend their gems on stuff they need. So what might every player need? There's a couple things. First and foremost, VIP in this game is freaking crucial, and this is a great place to spend your gems all the way up to VIP level 14. Why is that? When you hit VIP level 14, you get 3 legendary commander sculptures every day. If you want to talk about value over time, I've got like 1,000 and let's call it 600 days of getting 3 legendary sculptures every single day just for logging in. Seems pretty good, right? But you also get 2 sculptures at VIP 12. At VIP level 10, you get 1 legendary sculpture, which is pretty good. So you're going to want to advance your VIP, not to mention all these other VIP benefits are solid. So basically, you're going to take your gems and you're going to buy VIP. And this is probably the number one place to be spending your gems. Another place that early game players will be spending their gems is going to be on their castle. In order to actually unlock tier 5 troops, you're going to have to take your castle to level 25. The castle is the rally center. Okay, it determines the maximum capacity of your rally. And this building requires something called Books of the Covenant. You can buy them for 10 gems a pop. You can also get them free to play from rallying barb forts, but it takes like a zillion years. So inevitably, everybody spends some amount of gems buying Books of the Covenant to level up your castle. That is a great place to spend gems. Hoard them up till there's a More Than Gems event. Then you drop the gems to get your Books of the Covenant. The More Than Gems event shows up like once a month. So it is something you want to save for, and it is pretty consistent in its timing. The other thing that you're going to need to take a building to level 25, and it kind of sucks that this is the case, but it just is what it is that when you go to take a building to level 25, you need a master's blueprint. There's no way to get this other than spending 2,000 gems. Okay? There are thankfully a lot of free-to-play ways that you can get gems. I'll have a card in the description or a couple links in the description that talk about this. You can gather gems, and I've made dedicated guides on how to gather thousands of gems per day. You can also battle barbarians, and they give you gem tokens. There's a lot of ways to get gems. This is why you want to be really strategic with when you spend gems, especially if you're not spending money in the game. And you can see why I said, yeah, spending gems on a random Tuesday in the courier station is a bad idea, because you always want to spend your gems during events that give you extra stuff for doing something that was already going to be rewarding for your account. That is the time to spend your gems. And although I did mention that you can gather gems on your account, the main thing you're going to be gathering in this game is going to be resources. And there are a number of things you need to know about gathering resources in Rise of Kingdoms. There are a number of tricks that you can use to just get resources faster. For example, using a gathering speed token is critical. You should always have one of these active as long as you're actively watching the game. 50% gathering speed for a token is huge, man. Huge. In addition, gathering on territory is a big deal. When you join an alliance, you're going to build flags and forts, and a resource node on a flag is going to give you 25% more gathering speed. You can see this when I view it and I hit the info button. Alliance members gathering in territory get 25% gathering speed boost. Dude, that's amazing. 25% gathering speed for like nothing. Free. Easy. But the other thing you're going to do to gather more resources is that there are gathering commanders, and you're going to level them up. And you're going to want to level up these commanders very quickly, because the sooner you start getting value from gathering resources, the better. The sort of value you can get is manifold. First of all, there's equipment that increases your gathering speed. Some equipment is better than other. Most gathering equipment requires bone. Bone is a resource that is pretty much exclusively used for this gathering equipment. So you should never produce bone in your city, once you get access to equipment. You always want to be producing materials for combat-related stuff. But equipping gear that helps you gather faster is a big deal. But the main way that you're going to get this extra gathering speed boost is from skills and talents on your gathering commanders. The second skill of a gathering commander is gathering related. So unlike every other commander where I told you, hey, max the first skill, the skill you want to focus on a gathering commander is the second skill. You want to not deploy any skill ups, unlock the second skill, and then max it out, okay? Then you can, if you want, open things up and max other skills that could be gathering related or not gathering related. It kind of doesn't matter. As long as you get the gathering related stuff, then you're in a good spot. So like Queen Damar of Georgia, it's giving me 25% wood speed, 20% food, and 20% stone. Hey, that's a big deal. Okay, the only thing they don't give me is gold gathering speed, GG. But the place where you can get even more gathering stuff is, again, these talents. The gathering talent tree has lots of ways to gain gathering speed. That includes over here, you get wood gathering, you get food gathering speed, stone. Look at that, 30%, man. That's crazy. The talent points are so good. So the thing you want to do when you deploy your talents is you want to get these talents over here first. Then you want to go over here and get more the better. Troops led by this commander receive additional 6% of resources when you finish gathering. That's a big deal. And then from there, you want to make your way to superior tools. 25% gathering speed for all kinds of gathering. This is about level 37, where you can max out the most important things in the gathering tree. You can see this gathering hero is higher level because I have nothing else to do with myself in this game. And I get things like increasing the march speed of my siege units by 30%, taking slightly less sev wounds when my gatherers get attacked, going for some additional march speed so I can go to and from a resource node faster. I mean, these are really micro optimizations. Level 37 is when you've harvested the overwhelming majority of the benefit of the gathering talent tree. And just to show you exactly what that looks like, as I was saying, you max out these talents first, okay? You're going to max these out. From there, you make your way over to the talent that gives you more resources for completing gathering. 6% doesn't seem like much now, but it is a big deal. Okay, you claim that. From there, you get the prerequisites for superior tools. And then from there, I think you've hit level like 37. If you want, you can go and grab this other stuff if you continue to level them. At that point, it's fairly optional though. And if you're low on stars, which you probably will be, save them for other commanders. Now, I have spent a lot of time gathering, and I have dedicated gathering guides, but just for perspective, I have gathered 45 billion resources on my main account. But I also have a farm account, and my farm account gathers resources, and I bet you my farm account might even be near the top of this list because it also has gathered a non-trivial amount of resources. Yo, look at this. The kingdom I'm in, yo, people are gathering resources, which is good. My farm is not as high as I thought it would be, or I skipped it. But just to show you how powerful a farm can be, this player right over here, the number one gatherer in our kingdom, Just B, has 54 billion resources gathered, and his farm, Just B2, has 38 billion resources gathered. Hello? Farms are crazy powerful. The sooner you start a farm and get it up and running, the better. I have dedicated guides about how to make an amazing farm. The card will be, or link will be in the description for that one. If you want to see a dedicated guide about gathering. In the early game, I cannot overstate how important it is to be doing lots of gathering. And one thing that you will notice, by the way, if you want to hack for getting a gathering commander leveled up quickly, is that the higher rarity commanders take more experience per level. So what that means is that a gathering commander like Centurion is deceptively good. Centurion is deceptively good because green quality commanders take way less experience per level. So you can get him very high level very quickly, and the talent points will dramatically exceed what the skills were doing on the commander anyways. So, you know, this 30% gathering speed, it's a big freaking deal. And you can get these points very quickly, again, on a commander like Centurion who's green. Or the blue gathering commanders, for example. Very, very powerful. Gaius Marius, Sarka, Constance. In terms of gathering resources quickly, the lower quality or grade commanders actually are the better ones to level up first because they take less experience, and getting to level 37 is really the most critical thing. From here, I want to go and talk about another game mode because that gathering hero I was just showing you, Constance, she's available from the Expedition. The Expedition is a campaign-style game mode where you basically position troops onto the map, and then you fight a series of enemies. Now, I completely overpower this particular level, and the layout of this level is very simple, but you set the troops that you want to fight with, and you battle. There are a number of things that will determine how much progress you can make in this. Basically, how many troops you have is the bottleneck. That's going to be it. The more troops you have, the better. And what's weird about this game mode is that even when your troops die, you can still use them in the Expedition, which is pretty cool. So your progress here is not going to be blocked based on your actually fighting in your kingdom. And the number one reward that you want to go for in this medal store is going to be initially Sculptures of Constance to get her gathering skills in a really good spot. And then from there, you're going to go to Ethelfled. In fact, if you get any blue universal tokens, you want to use them all on Constance. Because you're not going to get Constance from gold keys like you can get other commanders from gold keys. So she's weird in that the way you're going to get her primarily is actually from progress in this Expedition, okay? And she is very, very good. And then from there, you go for Ethelfled Sculptures, And occasionally you'll see a legendary commander sculpture show up down here. If you do want to have some amount of this metal currency saved up to go get that sculpture when it randomly shows up, but it's very rare that that happens. The next thing that I want to go talk about is alliances. And alliances give you so much leverage in this game, it's actually insane. First of all, alliances have technology, and if your alliance officers are doing a good job, they're going to encourage you to work on technology and maximum donate every single day. This is giving you gathering speed, building speed, research speed, combat stats. This is really powerful. The other place that you get those stats is from holy sites that your alliance captures. That's where those guardians show up that give you the extra experience. We were talking about that. These bonuses are really important too. Commander experience game boost, gathering speed, health, also things like defense, building speed, training speed, research speed. Yo, these buffs are critical. Also, whenever your alliance buys bundles or completes objectives that are PvE related, like rallying barb forts, you get rewards. And let me tell you, I mean, your alliance is an insane multiplier for your progress. I'm in a really crazy endgame alliance where we're pulling down a ton of gold chests per day, which have speed ups and gems and VIP. It has so much powerful stuff. The alliance that you're in matters a ton. Do not sleep on being in a bad alliance. It will wreck you. You want to get in the best alliance possible. Now, on the topic of spending, there are a lot of ways that you can spend money in this game. As I mentioned earlier, I spent over $120,000 in Rise of Kingdoms, and I spend about $2,000 a month, sometimes $3,000 in a, we'll call it a busy month. And a part of that is because I'm a content creator and I want to show all the stuff that's in the game. But a part of that is that I try to spend in order to play all the events that I want to play to sort of get maximum value. But if you want maximum value from bundles in this game, there are a number of things you can get. In the early game, there's going to be something called the Growth Fund. That gives you gems based on your City Hall level. It's very cheap for the number of gems you get. Once you get to City Hall 25, it is an insane amount of gems. In addition, there are things in the Supply Depot, which if you're a very low spender in the game, there's big value here. The 30-day gem supply, if you want to spend, think of it like a game pass for like $10 a month, okay? The 30-day gem supply gives you a ton of gems, 650 every day for 30 days. This is a great way to slowly accumulate gems. The material supply is really good for equipment once you get to that point in the game. In addition, one of the highest value places you can spend in the game is going to be for an event called Lucerne Scrolls. There actually isn't a Lucerne Scrolls going on right now, so I can't show it to you, but it's basically a battle pass where you go and complete events, and every time you complete an event, you get some points of progress, and then you get rewards. You can spend $5 to unlock the higher tier of rewards, and it is so worth it. It's like one of the best $5 you can spend. In addition, there's going to be bundles that pop up every time you unlock a legendary commander or unlock the pattern for a piece of legendary equipment. Those are called the Writer of History and Vanquisher bundles. Those are amazing. You want to get those if you are a spender. And the final tip I'll give you with regard to spending and getting extra value is that there's going to be an event that shows up typically around holidays called a recharge event. We even have a lighter version of a recharge event going on right now where spending just a small amount of money, okay, I think I got to accumulate like 1,000 gems worth of value in terms of what I've spent on, unlocks a reward. And, you know, look, it's a little bit of speed ups here, a little bit of resources tomorrow, but then it's going to be 10 legendary commander sculptures, okay? When I get to the third day of spending. These recharge events are super high value. The lowest value you'll find in the game is the super value bundles, comedically. The super value bundles are where big spenders go, and they'll buy the bundles that, you know, are available and reset every single day. Those are the sort of lowest value bundles that you can buy in the game. And the true crazy ones buy all those bundles and then they start buying raw gems. This is like really full degen status, okay? Is you just buy gems. And the first time you buy raw gems in this game, they actually double the number of gems you get, which is actually good value. As crazy as that sounds, like double gems is actually really good value because you can deploy those during events to get better stuff than you could have gotten from a super value bundle anyways. So if you need a lot of gems, for example, to get your Books of the Covenant, one-time purchase over here can actually be pretty massive. But you can see once you do that, the amount of bonus gems goes way down, and it stops being worth it for pretty much everybody to go and just buy raw gems. At this point, we've covered a truly astronomical number of topics. The final thing I want to talk about is fighting and keeping your city safe. And I know this guide is insanely long. Again, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing or throwing a like onto the video. How do you prepare for war? And fighting will happen in your kingdom. The main goal of your kingdom at the start is that you are positioned initially in these outer zones, and there are passes that open up that are your gateway into zones closer and closer to the center. And at the end of the day, you want your alliance to be king of the kingdom and to hold the Lost Temple. There's a number of buffs that you get and benefits you get for having, the king of the kingdom, and the things that the king can do is sort of powerful. But the fighting that leads up to that can put you in a precarious spot. If your city is attacked, your troops can die, right? So there's a number of things you can do to protect your city besides just having a higher hospital capacity and setting a competent garrison defense. One of the things you can do is that you can hide your troops in one of your alliance's flags. Now remember, this only works if no enemy has a flag touching your flag. If your flag touches another alliance's flag, you can fight. Okay, so for example, this flag could be attacked, and they could attack our flags over here. Now, our kingdom is in peace, and that's not a thing that we're worried about. And your kingdom will eventually be in peace as well once the pecking order is sort of settled for your kingdom and the politics are worked out. But if flags are touching, they can be attacked. But if you've got a flag or holy site that no other alliances are near, one strategy for protecting your troops when you go to sleep is to run your troops into a flag. Hey, they're not in my city anymore. Now they're in this flag. And if no one has any flags remotely close to yours, such that there's no way you'll wake up and your enemy is built to your flag and killed all your troops, you can hide your troops in a flag. And hey, that's a pretty cool way to prevent your troops from being attacked when they're in your city, because your city can be attacked anytime. The only other thing that can protect your city is something called a peace shield. This is a buff. You can activate that buff, and for a period of time, your city cannot be attacked, but you also cannot take a war action. So you'll use peace shields if your kingdom is in war, but they do cost gems, and this starts to add up very, very quickly if you are in a war that is prolonged. So alternate strategies like hiding your troops starts to become more interesting. I think the main thing I want to talk about in this video, and I've got an ultimate fighting guide designed to teach you everything you need to know about fighting in the open field and the core mechanics of that. But the thing I want to teach you is that when you fight for territory, which is critical in this game, troops are going to die. And what determines how well your sort of flag defense is going to be the captain march. So I put multiple marches into here, okay? All of the troops that are in this flag will get the benefit of whoever is the captain. This is also true for a rally. All of the troops that are in a rally get the buffs from the player who launched the rally. So as a powerful endgame player, if I join somebody else's rally, chances are that the strength of my troops is going to be decreased to match their buffs and equipment and everything going on with their commanders and research and so on. So you want the strongest player to be the one who is the captain. They may not even have the best commanders technically, but if their research is far more advanced and they've got, their tier 5 troops unlocked, then if you're a T4 player, you probably should just stick to the T5 player and their powerful buffs. And why is that? Look, I can send these troops home now. This little marker over here, by the way, determines who the captain is. If you look at the buffs you get just for getting your way to T5, it's actually insane. I mean, just these last 3 researches are giving me 25% health, 25% attack, and 25% defense, not to mention all the other stuff that's along the way. So if you find yourself fighting, just remember that whoever is the captain when you're in a garrison or rally situation determines all of the buffs, and those are the commanders that use their active skills and passive skills for actually defending the garrison. For open field fighting, well, I've got a dedicated guide to that. Card will be in the description. And honestly, this is such a long video already. I think I've got to call it here. If you enjoyed this ultimate guide teaching you all of the core mechanics to Rise of Kingdoms, or at least as many of them as I could squeeze into a single video, then do me the honor of throwing a like on this video and subscribing to the channel. Check the links in the description if you want more information about any of the topics that we've covered. At the end of the day, you train a lot of troops, but they're all meant to die in order to get you victories. And I've had over 72 million troops die. That's 720 million power worth of tier 5 troops that have died fighting for objectives in this game. And the sooner you attach yourself to the reality that troops are made to help you win wars, and you're going to lose some of them, the faster you will be set free in terms of your perspective on fighting in this game. And in many ways, this is a hardcore game where you play for keeps. People can take your damn resources. They can kill your darn troops. So getting as much edge as possible is really important to me, which is why I've made over 2,000 videos about this game designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. I'm going to have 2 cards in the end screen in just a second that are videos that I think you're going to find immensely helpful. But again, thank you for considering subscribing to get daily videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies.